Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now here are your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
I'm going to try to do everything I can to put us in a position to be successful to the best of my ability. It hadn't worked a whole lot here lately, and we're all down in the dumps. I'm down in the dumps, but today's a new day.
Our veterans are going to do what they always do. They're going to lead, but it's those guys that, in their third, fourth year that have to start making their presence felt.
What is it they say about baseball? You just can't figure it out. Who would have thought earlier this week that a USC baseball team, which had gone through one of the rockiest and poorest regular seasons in recent years, is going to be the first USC team since 2007 to win 2 games in the same SEC tournament. USC is up on Missouri 10-1. Missouri playing in the bottom of the Missouri batting here in the bottom of the 9th inning in Hoover. It's been all Gamecocks since the middle part of the from the early part of the game when Destino hit a home run and the Gamecocks went on top 2-0. And they put together 8 runs in the 4th, 5th, and 6th innings and put this game away. Cortez with a pair of 3-run homers. Also Jonah Bride with a homer. The Gamecocks, the Bronx Bombers today. Missouri just hit a home run to make it 10-2, but too little too late with 1 out here in the bottom of the 9th. Phil Kornbluth here in Hoover, K-Mac and the Professor and Jarmart back in Columbia. So, guys, the Gamecocks are going to live to play another day. They'll have 2 SEC wins. They'll play either Kentucky or LSU tomorrow at 4 o'clock Eastern time. And you just wonder what the NCAA committee is going to think about their performance, especially if they win tomorrow to get a 3rd tournament win. If they lose, to go 2-2 tournaments. You look at their pitching with what Will Crow did today with a 9-strikeout performance. He was outstanding. He consistently was in the mid to upper 90s with his fastball. Adam Hill will go tomorrow. That gives the Gamecocks a fighting chance. You know what? If you're Chad Holbrook, you got to feel pretty good about things.
Well, yeah, you feel better than you did a couple of days ago, certainly, to get a few wins there and do something the Gamecocks haven't done in a long, long time. But I don't know if he's feeling good until he knows they're going to be into the postseason, which is what's really going to be the big barometer for him, I think, for everybody to take a breath and see what's going to happen. And they have some work to do before they get to that point.
Well, the interesting thing about it is baseball, to me, all sports are this way, but baseball especially is such a mentally taxing game. You almost think you want to see what this team would do if you just let them in the back door of the tournament. Psychologically, they feel better about themselves and may scare some folk, in the postseason, Corn. You never know. So it'd be interesting to see. But I think a win over an LSU or a Kentucky, obviously that helps your RPI. So I think definitely if they win the next game, they're in. Yeah.
Well, they got to, like you said, there's work to be done. Kentucky and LSU both have handled the Gamecocks this season in their regular season matchups, but there were some tight games in there. And so we'll see what happens. They'll have a completely rested bullpen, so they can go with Hill. He gets into any trouble, they'll have Reagan, Scott, and Johnson because none pitched today. So those guys will have 2 full days of rest. We'll have Kobe Lee, who hasn't pitched. He'll be available too. Arm-wise, they'll be in terrific shape tomorrow. There's no reason, if Hill gets in any trouble, to leave him out there for an extended period and let him absorb damage. They can go to their bullpen with confidence and can go to it early if they need to. But today, the Gamecocks, like I said, they played the long ball. Crow was outstanding on the mound. They just had a terrific catch out in left field, a running catch into foul territory for an out. They've just done most everything pretty well. They've had a couple of errors in the game. Nothing, of course, that has hurt them. 10, 14, and 2 for the Gamecocks, 2-6-1 for Missouri. So it's been a good day for USC. The game will end here shortly, and I'll leave you guys to go down and grab the post game, and we'll have the exclusive radio coverage of USC's post game thing up here on Sports Talk as soon as it's done. Now, earlier today, we had a great game. Arkansas was controlling things against Mississippi State. The Mississippi State scored 3 runs over the last 2 innings and won that game 4-3 to advance. And that's the one other game that is in the books here today in Hoover. Coming up after the USC game ends, and right now Missouri with 2 outs has runners on the corners. So we've got Kentucky and LSU coming up, and then Mississippi State, which won earlier today, will play Florida, but they've moved that game till tomorrow at noon Eastern time. So Kentucky, LSU coming up after this one will be the last game of this day, and Mississippi State, Florida will go off at noon tomorrow. USC will play at 4 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow against the loser of LSU and Kentucky. And so we'll go from there with South Carolina after that.
Why at noon? I mean, they're asking themselves to get behind. Why wouldn't you start at 10:30 so you're sure to get your game started at 4 on time? A noon start, then you have a 4 o'clock game. It's not uncommon for a game to go over 3 hours, or if there's any sort of delay. I don't understand that.
First game today was a 4-hour game. USC played a 4-hour game against Vanderbilt. Let's see, this game started at 3 o'clock Eastern time.
So
we're 3 hours and 12 minutes.
So they're gonna
at this point.
Yeah, they're gonna be behind.
Yeah, in all likelihood. And these games have sort of been like little turtles out there. They've been in no hurry to get these games over with. But the ball has been flying out of here. I think they've had more homers in this SEC tournament than any in recent years since they went to the different bats and the different balls and that sort of stuff to kind of contain the balls flying out of here. So we'll have coverage of USC postgame coming up. We'll update the other scores. K-Mac and Pro can update the scores from the Big South, the SoCon, the ACC. Clemson's still off today. They don't play again till tomorrow. Fred Jordan announced his retirement today as the baseball coach at the Citadel. We'll talk about that. We got some football stuff to talk about too. And it's official now. USC has closed out the game against Missouri. The Gamecocks win it 10-2 to stay alive here in Hoover at the SEC tournament, and they'll play tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Terrific performance by Will Crow. Let me give you the official line on him today. He was really outstanding all game long, and he got plenty of offensive support. Doesn't hurt to get early offense. The Gamecocks, one thing they've done in this tournament, in their 3 games, they've gotten early offense. They were able to sustain it against Vandy, did not sustain it or add to it against Kentucky, did so today. Crow went 6 innings. He allowed 4 hits, and, okay, the stat monitor just freaked out on me here. Let's see.
I think he had
4
9
hits.
Ks.
He struck out 9. I think he walked 3. And I was going to look up the pitches. He threw 120 pitches, I believe, is what I have in my memory. 120, maybe 122 is what he threw. But a dominating performance by Will Crow. He got the air support from Destino with a home run. Destino was a triple shy of the cycle. He had a single, a double, and a homer. Cortez, 6 RBIs. 2 3-run blasts. He's got 11 home runs on the season. That's a team high. He really looks dialed in. So, hey, you know what? I think that this baseball team is playing loose right now. I think they realize how important this tournament is. It's everything to them. It's a different mindset than maybe what previous Gamecock teams have had coming in here, with the exception of 2015 when they didn't make the NCAA one and done here. This is obviously it's a must-win situation for them every time out, and they are responding. And it's like I kind of set up earlier in the week after they beat Vanderbilt. You know, they would like to have beaten Kentucky, but they were using their second-line pitching. Today was the day they got back to their front-line pitching, and now they are really set up with good pitching going into the game tomorrow. I'm headed downstairs. I'll come back to you guys after we're done.
We continue on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes holding it down in studio. Bill Kornblut in Hoover, where he has watched South Carolina stay alive against Missouri with the 10-2 win. The Gamecocks will move on to face either LSU or Kentucky tomorrow at 4 o'clock. They'll play the loser of that game, and the Wildcats and Tigers will be playing here in about 30 minutes. The Gamecocks lost to Kentucky in the regular season 2 of 3 at Founders Park. They lost earlier this week, yesterday, as a matter of fact, 7-2, and they would have to face them again, or maybe LSU, who they lost 2 of 3 against in the regular season, but those were pretty competitive games, all of them. The Gamecocks won the first one and then lost the next 2, had a lead late. Oh, that's kind of the story of the season. I'm basically recapping every series for the Gamecocks for the past several weeks, but they'll get a crack at one of those 2 teams again tomorrow. 800-956-7266 is the toll-free number. You can reach out, grab a line. Your phone calls. We're going to talk about baseball, of course. Clemson getting ready for meaningless game. I say meaningless in terms of the ACC tournament. It is meaningless. Clemson and Virginia tomorrow. But for Clemson hosting a regional, it might have a little meaning. The Tigers have a meaningful, meaningless game tomorrow against Virginia, and Virginia is playing Duke now, the team that beat Clemson on Tuesday night. They're in the 9th inning, and Duke is on top of Virginia 4-3. So Virginia will have to – I mean, I don't know how this will work. Duke will be 2-0 in the pool, so Virginia will have to beat Clemson to have any chance, and hope Duke loses to – who's the other team in that bracket? I don't know who Duke would play tomorrow. I have to look at that bracket. The pool play format, I think we can establish the ACC tournament format is the worst format.
Need to pull the plug on that pool.
In sports. It's awful. I mean, Clemson lost on Tuesday. They've been eliminated for a couple of days now, and they have to play. That's absolutely insane. So we'll check to see who has to do what to get to the championship, but it doesn't really matter from a Clemson standpoint. They have been eliminated, which is why we haven't been trying to rack our brains about the different scenarios on what you have to do. We do know Clemson will play Virginia tomorrow. We do know that the Tigers, I don't know that you'll say they need a win to host a regional, but it sure wouldn't hurt. Another big story that's getting a lot of buzz today, it's not a baseball story. It's actually a football story. Jake Bentley made some headlines with some comments that he made to a local Fox affiliate in the upstate yesterday. In fact, we have those comments for you. Very brief. He was asked about the Clemson game last year and how they've responded from that and what they plan to do in the future to kind of make that rivalry a little bit closer. It was a lopsided game last year. Here's what Jake Bentley said that's drawing a lot of from a lot of different people.
We just didn't play well that week, but that's our big quote, going in this year is just, somebody was felt like we got outworked, So, our big thing is, never again will we be outworked. Never again will we be, out competed on a game like that. And it all stems from that game, just because at the end of the game, everyone knew that, they weren't that much better than us or better than us at all. But, it really just lit a fire in everybody. And since that week, everyone's really worked harder and wanted it more.
It's a never again mentality.
All right. Yeah, that's Jake Bentley. And that part where he said they weren't that much better than us or any better than us, that's the part of his comments that people have latched on to, Pro. And here's my take on it. Number one, this is a 19-year-old quarterback of a football team. And the fact that he's confident should not surprise anybody. The fact that he didn't word that exactly the way you should, if you have a little more maturity and you're used to doing interviews and you understand the name of the bulletin board, gotcha game, you word it a little different than that. But this whole notion, I just read a piece on a Clemson website that said he just guaranteed that it's going to happen again. Try to beat South Carolina's brains out next season before he said that. Oh, now they're going to try really hard to beat South Carolina. We were going to just beat you by a field goal, But now you better get ready for a 3-touchdown loss. It was just him talking to one reporter. You do have to remember, Will Muschamp doesn't let freshmen talk. He hasn't talked to the media a lot. He hasn't had a lot of microphones on this kind of stage put in his face. So you do give a pass. And this isn't out of the ordinary. And look, I'm not coming down on Clemson fans for jumping on this, because South Carolina fans did the same thing, even on some things that weren't said. Taj Boyd never said that South Carolina's defensive line was mediocre, but that went around the message boards and social media that he did. And it was apparently bulletin board material that he had tweeted that out. And, he was reminded of that when they played. And I'm sure Jake Bentley, when he's sacked, when and if he's sacked, and if history is any indicator, when he's sacked in November, somebody will say, you still think you're just as good as us? Or if they lose, I mean, you open yourself up to that when you make those comments, which is why you don't want to say those. And I think at 19, it's maybe a little harder to realize that. But what do you expect them to say, Pro? Do you expect them to say, oh, they beat our brains out, we're no good, they'll probably beat us again this year? I mean, you're in a no-win situation.
Well, see, first of all, I don't believe in bulletin board material, because once you get hit in the mouth on that first play or whatever, that bulletin board material is out the window. Now, the reason why it really doesn't freak me out is because it depends on the team you have backing you up. First of all, we heard Jadeveon Clowney, we're never going to lose to Clemson while I'm here. And they didn't. Deshaun Watson, we're never going to lose to South Carolina while I'm here. And they didn't. So there's two guys that said what was going to happen, but they had the team to back them up. Now, we'll see it'll be interesting when they'll bring the comments up again. But I think it's much ado about nothing. It just depends on who's the best team that particular year. Clemson should have dominated that game. They were the better team. There's no doubt about it. Now, on those years when South Carolina beat Clemson, those teams were comparable.
Right. Well,
you didn't know who was going to win.
But I'll tell you, I mean, South Carolina won 5 in a row. And if you would ask any Clemson football player on any one of those 5 teams that lost to South Carolina, they would say, we were better. Yeah. We were the better team. We're just as good as them. Now, South Carolina averaged some of those games, never to the degree that Clemson dominated. Now, but 5 straight games, that's a dominating run in a series to win 5 straight. But Clemson, to a man, would have told you we're just as good as those guys. Was South Carolina every bit as good as Clemson last year? No. Are you shocked that a player on the team thinks that? That's just competitive juices. That's just what people do. That's what athletes do. You can get your brains beat out one year and say, oh, no, you just caught us on a bad day. We weren't ready. We'll be ready for you next time. That's human nature. And it's jumping on the words of a 19-year-old. Now, if Will Muschamp would have said that, okay. That's why coaches don't, unless you're Rex Ryan. He says that kind of dopey stuff. And that's why Rex Ryan doesn't have a job. Okay. But coaches know better than to say that kind of stuff without being able to back it up. 19-year-olds, no, they don't always have the best foresight and how to say things, which is why, we all roll our eyes about Will Muschamp not letting freshmen talk to the media. And this is why coaches try to protect players and why you get canned answers, vanilla answers. He gave an honest answer. Yes, I mean, you open yourself up, and I don't have a problem with Clemson fans making the memes and him being tackled. All that's fair game. But then you see outlets writing columns. I just read one where it was, now he's guaranteed that it's going to happen again. Clemson very well may win in November, and they may win decisively in November, but it will not be because of anything Jake Bentley said to a television station in May. I promise you. That score will have nothing to do with those comments. We'll be back. Sports Talk just cranking up from here in Columbia and Hoover. Don't go away.
Chad Holbrook, Coach, we'll open up with a statement from you, and then we'll hand it over to the players for questions.
Well, obviously, it is an important game. We played pretty well. Obviously, Will was terrific. He's been a leader of our team and our program for a number of years now. A special player in my book. I always have a close place in my heart for him because he could have signed after his injury.
Chad Holbrook is talking now. We are streaming it on our Periscope, but we're going to give you quality sound coming up. The Periscope's not what we want to run live. I just can't hear it on a level that I think is going to be good enough, and Corn will be back upstairs and he can lead into it, and you'll be able to hear all of the subjects in a much better fashion. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we'll jump to your phone calls, 800-956-7266. Your thoughts on Jake Bentley's comments? Is that going to impact the game in November one way or another? You can chime in there, 800-956-7266. The Gamecocks showing some life in Hoover. How do you take that if you're a Gamecock fan that's been upset? Are you starting to feel a little better? At least your team is still fighting. If you're a Clemson baseball fan, are you getting a little nervous now as the Tigers are scuffling heading into their final game at the ACC tournament and getting ready for regional play? You're sweating out a hosting spot for a regional. Join us on the line now. You can also hit us up via email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. Follow us on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. You can follow me on Twitter @KMacMustDie. You can follow Pro. Oh, Pro does. He's smart. He didn't get on the Twitter.com. Very, very smart man, Pro.
If you have mental telepathy, you can contact me.
Let's go out to the phones. Kevin in Marion is on the line. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, gentlemen. How y'all doing this afternoon?
Outstanding.
Anyway, I just wanted to chime in. I saw that on TigerNet last night or early this morning. I can't remember which one it was, but I know the kid's young and everything, but like I said, he needs to know what's going to be bulletin board material and what's not going to be. And like you said, that's not going to have anything to do with November and the game or anything. But I'm a Clemson fan, and I just thought that was kind of a little bit out of character for him. He's supposed to be a real killer quarterback, and I think the boy's going to be real good this year. I think they're going to have a real good year. But if you kind of look at his mindset and as smart as he's supposed to be, I just don't think he would have done that. Just like Taj Boyd when he did what he did a couple years ago.
But what did Taj Boyd do? I mean, what Taj Boyd did and didn't do, it was overblown. And I think, again, this is overblown. This is a guy talking about a game. They got their brains beat in. So what do you do? Coaches always focus on this. And as an athlete on any level, even if you're just a job, not to focus on the negative thing and focus on the positive. So their mentality is you get crushed by your arch rival. You don't focus on the negative. You say, okay, they outworked us, so we got to work hard. Never again. You have to use that as motivation. So that's what he's doing. Did he answer that question and use the best words, if you will? I had the best words, believe me. No, he did not answer that in a very tactful way. It wasn't a savvy answer to that question, but he's not. We can't expect these guys to be standout athletes on the football field, superstar athletes, and then be media savvy to handle every single question thrown their way when they're not used to that sort of thing. You have to chalk it up to, okay, he's an immature 19-year-old talking about the biggest game of his life that he on a national stage where they were embarrassed. We all know what happened. He knows what happened. You can't deny that, but you at least have to understand that where he's coming from and what he's trying to say there.
But here's my thing.
At least I can.
Well, here's my thing. When he was a sophomore, Deshaun Watson said, we're not going to lose to South Carolina while I'm here. And while people say you shouldn't say that, those doors, I think coaches like, especially their quarterbacks, to be that confident. Because not only did the opposition hear that, his teammates heard it. And you don't know how positively that may affect them by saying, we got a quarterback in here that's confident. And and let's face it, Clemson had tremendous defensive talent. But don't tell me when they saw number 4 on that field, how much better they played, because they get the ball back to him so he can do some damage.
Well, I already saw Bryson Allen Williams a tweet today that it said Jake Bentley for president. That's the kind of thing that it will rally your guys. Now, his audience, his people, it fires them up, and it should. Clemson fans, I'm not saying don't. The memes have been great on social media. I don't really understand think pieces coming out from media members saying, oh, yeah, that's what I guess caught my attention when I just read a piece about how he guaranteed that it will happen again. That one took me back a little bit. I think that's why we talked about it as much as we have tonight. Let's go back out to the phones. Where we headed, Jared?
Vernon Bishopville.
All right, Vernon Bishopville's up next.
Yo. Yeah, this is Vern.
Hey, man.
You know, Mr. K-Mac, you ruffle my feather more than anybody else do.
I'm amazed. That's my gift.
Yeah. Everybody not afraid of Clemson like you are. Jake Bentley is a human being, and he look at things from the point of view because he plays in the game.
Yes, sir.
And
That's
stuff,
right.
And like that, And stuff. Clemson is human. And stuff. You need to realize that too. You saying he did this, he did that. He talked from his heart. That's the way he feels.
I'm defending him. I'm defending it. I thought I was defending him.
You defended Jake Bentley.
I haven't.
Putting him down. You act like Clemson on. There's something from outer space or something. It can't be beat. It can be.
Well, yeah. I mean, Pittsburgh beat him last year, but I didn't think I was being hard on Jake Bentley. In fact, I really kind of.
What is that? 19-year-old, this, a 19-year-old that. I'm not.
He is a 19-year-old. I think that's why you don't word things right. I mean, everything that I said when I was 19, look, I'm a guy that talks on the radio living, and I say things that are dumb every day. I couldn't imagine doing it when I was 19 if I had a microphone and camera in my face. So, I mean, I'm defending the guy, or trying to, apparently not very well in your eyes.
Well, I had my ears cleaned out yesterday by the doctor, but I must have just understood what you say. But anyway, and stuff like that. You watch. Just let all this live and watch. Clemson going right back where they've been 5 years ago. You know, they're going right back to just like Carolina, just mediocre. They're going right back to that same position. It's just a matter of time.
Well, they got some good ball players over there, and I think South Carolina's on the uptick, but I don't know that I would say Clemson's going right back where they were 5 years ago. They were pretty darn good 5 years ago, too. I know South Carolina beat them. Those were don't diminish your wins over Clemson. You were beating good Clemson football teams. I've never understood it. Don't diminish a win. I mean, those were good Clemson teams.
Because I don't like Clemson at all. I don't like orange. I don't like Clemson.
You don't even eat oranges, do you? You don't even drink orange juice.
Oh, I drink orange juice.
Okay.
So
you know,
I don't like it, but I drink
Vern,
it. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Vern.
Yeah. Now Vern, I wanted to touch base with Vern. We'll get him another time, but Vern was just belly aching when the Gamecock basketball team lost in the first round of the SEC tournament. They had called it since. Wanted to see how he wanted about that Final Four run.
Let's go back to the phones. Where are we headed next, Jared? Robert in Conway is up next. Hello, Robert.
Y'all making all of y'all are making too big of a deal over this thing. Have some fun with it. Relax, enjoy. Lay back. Let me ask you something important.
Well, I enjoy it when I'm making a big deal.
What color uniforms? What color uniforms is Carolina going to wear in the first game, opening game of the season?
Well, they better wear light color uniforms. I would say light color uniforms because that's a 3 o'clock.
They got a 3 o'clock.
Let's put down the 3 o'clock kick in that game
on September 1st, right? Second. Yeah.
It's going to be very hot.
So I would wear
Clemson
all white.
plays at noon, by the way.
I would wear
on
all
September
white.
2nd. But I don't know if they have a choice. It depends on if they're the home team or the away team.
Well, you do. I mean, the home team can say they can wear white and make the other team wear.
Yeah, if they're the home team.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're going to be the home team. They're playing it on a neutral site. So I don't know what the team will be wearing. If I'm a fan at that game, I'd wear something light colored. If you're South Carolina, don't do a blackout in the stands for that one. Clemson, it is going to be a noon kick for Kent State. Woo! So it'll be a doubleheader, nationally televised games. But, yeah, it's going to be sizzling hot. Hotter than 1,000 hells, probably.
Famous.
But, hey,
hot.
football. Less than 100 days away. We'll be right back. We're back on Sports Talk. Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, holding it down in our Columbia studios. Phil Kornblut will be back with us from Hoover momentarily. He was catching post game with Chad Holbrook and Gamecock players as they are still alive. A lot of work to do to keep going. I mean, they have to play either LSU or Kentucky tomorrow at 4 in an elimination game, and then they will have to play again on Saturday and again on Sunday to win the thing. And they might have to win the whole thing to get into the postseason. Maybe if they got 2 Sunday, if they win 2 more, they would get an at-large bid. They do have a pretty solid RPI, but most people would say they would have to get to at least Sunday, if not win the whole thing. Let's go back out to the phones, 800-956-7266, heading up to Rock Hill. And John is on the line with us. Hello, John.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
We're doing very well. Hope you are.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the upcoming Gamecock football schedule.
Sure, be happy to. Mention that NC State game, the opener, where the Wolfpack, they opened as an 8-point favorite in that one, by the way. NC State could be a preseason top 25 team. That game has been set by the powers that be, television networks, as a 3 o'clock kick. That's some news that came down today.
It'll be hot.
It will be hot. And then they open up SEC play on the road against Missouri.
Should get that one.
Yeah, you think they're going to beat Missouri?
Yeah, Missouri's they're struggling right now. And
what about NC State? Neutral site Charlotte. You think you got that one?
Yeah, I think we can beat NC State. I mean, the first game's always
okay. All right. Well, Kentucky's that's your home opener. SEC home opener. Kentucky's had their number.
Kentucky's got. I know, but I was just telling one of my friends the other day.
All right.
It's time to start beating Kentucky in football because, frankly, for me, it's kind of embarrassing to lose to Kentucky in football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's basketball. No shame in losing to Kentucky, and football doesn't feel very good.
Different.
All right, Louisiana Tech, I'm going to chalk that up as a win. Skip Holtz making his return to Columbia. That will be interesting. At Texas A&M, the Aggies at their place, that's not an easy trip. Kyle Field, the 12th man.
Who's the quarterback?
I don't know.
No idea.
Might pull a guy out of the stands. The 12th man might be their quarterback.
And their best pass rusher would be in a Browns uniform next year.
Arkansas comes back on the schedule as well. Then they have Tennessee. The champions of life and the Volunteers rolling into town. You playing in Knoxville, actually. Vanderbilt, then at Georgia, November 4th. So a later date with Georgia than normal. So most of their suspended players that are going to get arrested here over the next few months will probably be back with the Bulldogs by November. Then a home game against Florida, home game against Wofford, and then
Clemson.
That game against Clemson.
I was just I'm honestly kind of sick and tired of losing to Clemson. I mean, I get Clemson's been a good football team the last few years, but I can't love it. I just hate losing to them.
I think you are not.
You
in small company.
The key point is
if you're a Gamecock fan that doesn't like
interesting. You expected to lose to Clemson. Clemson was a dominant team, unlike some of the matchups in previous years when the teams had comparable talent. I think each game was led touchdown favored either team. So, but last year was just no contest who had the more superior team. Clemson was the top team in the country.
Yes,
last year
they were the national champs,
and had
last I checked
had arguably the best defensive line in the country as well on the other side of Alabama.
So it's a tough schedule for South Carolina. I think they can win 8 games next year. I think that should be the benchmark for a successful season. If they could win 8 games, I think that would be a very successful season. I'm not saying anything less than that would be a failure, but they won 6 last year and they lost a bowl game. So if they could win 8 games with the bowl game or 8 and get 9, then you're talking about a really big jump. And let's face it, the SEC East is not the juggernaut that it was back in the day. This isn't your mom and pop's SEC East. There are a lot of teams that think they could win the SEC East. Mm-hmm. Florida thinks they can win it. Tennessee thinks they can win it. Georgia thinks they can win it. Missouri has won it a couple of times. No one thought they could win it, but they have won it. Kentucky, they still think they're getting better, and they have shown some signs of life. Vanderbilt has shown they can be competitive. Mason had a defense that was salty last year. And South Carolina, people out there that will put South Carolina as a dark horse in the SEC East, you can laugh. But with their offense and some of those weapons that they have, South Carolina could be a player in a wide open SEC East if they can find a little bit of defense and stay healthy. Glenn in North Charleston's up next.
How you doing, guys?
Hi, Glenn.
I'd say Jake Bentley's putting some numbers up there now. Like, he did really well in the spring contest, and I think he's going to show great improvement. He'll be a great leader, and I believe with 8 games as well, and I think he's going to do great. And I think it's possible to win the bowl this year, too. So this season coming.
Yeah, they almost won the one last year.
They get to a bowl game. You never know who they're going to match up with. You never know how a season's going to play out. But on paper, right now, late May, this Gamecock team has a bunch of very good offensive players and a defense that if they can find a little bit of defense and build on that offense with Jake Bentley, who is a franchise quarterback, and he stays healthy, that's another big thing.
But Arkansas has always been
they've always
been. They've always beaten us even at home.
Texas A&M as well.
I remember that year that South Carolina beat Arkansas, 52 to something in Arkansas?
Yeah, on homecoming. I was at that game.
But I hope we got a great group of players. I hope defense is a lot faster. And that's what they need, is a lot of speed to get to that quarterback. No matter what, if they got to push 300-pound guys back, they got to have to really have some speed to do it,
Glenn, we appreciate the phone call. Have yourself a good Wednesday, or we're Thursday now. Trying to go backwards. Corn's back with us. Let's go back up to Corn.
Yeah. The Gamecocks do not want to turn the clock back. Back there.
I know. I track of days during conference baseball tournament. All the days run together. You're watching baseball all day, late into the night usually.
We've been watching rain the last couple of days.
A lot of rain. Yeah, they are playing baseball. We need to update some of the other conference tournaments around the area in Greenville, out in Lexington, and just beyond. But Corn, your best game, any enlightening things happen down there?
Yeah, were you guys able to take any of the Periscope?
We did not. No, we teased it, but I didn't. I wanted to wait till we got the good stuff, the better quality stuff.
Well, we not only did that, but we also got a side piece with Holbrook as well. We'll bring you that here coming up after the top of the hour break. But obviously the Gamecocks couldn't be happier about the way things went today. Will Crow, Carlos Cortez, Alex Destino were the players. And, man, I tell you, from the Gamecocks as well as the Missouri people, just heaping praise on Cortez. The Missouri coach and Holbrook and his teammates all believe he is going to be, if not one of the best hitter in the country next year. And they think you're seeing glimpses of it here now with the 2 bombs he hit today. And Holbrook went on to talk about him being a complete player. Even though he got picked off first base today, he said he's a very good base runner. He made a very nice catch out in left field, a running catch into foul territory. A complete player, more than just a hitter, but you'll see more of the hitter coming out of him moving forward. And, Adam Hill goes to the mound tomorrow. He feels like Reagan will be ready. Scott will be ready. Tyler Johnson, he wasn't 100% sure he'd be available tomorrow. It's a day-to-day thing. But the other 2 relievers will be ready, and they're ready to take their chances tomorrow against either Kentucky or LSU and see if they can make it into the weekend. They're just playing very confidently and loose right now, and they feel good about themselves as a team at this point. We'll let you hear from the Gamecocks when we come back from the top of the hour break. Arkansas is leading Auburn 1-0 in the bottom of the first here, and we'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
All right, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth back up in the broadcast booth after being downstairs for USC postgame. We're going to bring some of that to you coming up shortly. The Gamecocks a winner today in the tournament with a very, very solid performance against Missouri. Offense, pitching, and defense for the most part. Nothing defensively that really caused them any major problem. And they get a nice win against a Missouri team that beat them 2 out of 3 in the regular season. And so they move on in the elimination round. I think tomorrow everything becomes, for everybody, it's single elimination. I mean,
after tomorrow.
Well, let's see. South Carolina plays. I think there's going to. Well, one of the games today's being moved to tomorrow, and that's still in the double elimination bracket. But then I think everything becomes single elimination after that, because you'll have your teams moving on to Saturday, and then the winners of the elimination games move on, and the losers go home. So, as far as the Gamecocks are concerned, it's a single elimination for them. They're trying to get to Saturday. Once you get to Saturday, it's single elimination. Of course, the single championship game on Sunday. So, South Carolina feeling good about their situation, and we'll have some audio for you coming up shortly from Chad Holbrook and the Gamecock players. We're in the process of processing that and getting that forwarded to the studios in Columbia. And as soon as we go, we'll bring that to you. In the meantime, 1-0 here, Arkansas over Auburn. This is a loser's bracket game. And so the loser here will be done. We got some calls waiting as well. 800-956-7266 is the number. Let's hit up the calls while we wait for the audio to get queued up. And to Florence we go for, I missed the name, Duke in Florence. Hello, Duke. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Nice to talk to you all. My question was, I keep hearing about defensive line, which to me is going to be the most important thing Carolina football has to fix this year. And I just wondered some of the names of the guys that might be in there that we haven't already heard before and what they're good at. And then how far along is Blackshear from his injuries a year ago?
All right, thanks. Yeah, defensive front will be huge for South Carolina in terms of needing improvement to help the overall defense. You're talking about Dennis Wanham and Dante Sawyer at the ends, Taylor Stallworth, Eric Jones as your inside people starting out. MJ Webb, a newcomer, is going to see a lot of action inside. Young guy like Kobe Smith, young guy like Keir Thomas, another one, Aaron Thompson. They've all got to play. You mentioned Blackshear. He's a backup at defensive end, recovered fully from the gunshot injuries, but still trying to catch up in terms of conditioning and strength and all that. Nowhere near the player at this point, nowhere near the player he was projected to be as a junior in high school. That's when he was at his zenith as a junior in high school, suffered some injuries as a senior at Bluffton High School, and then had personal matters to deal with. It just hadn't been the same since then. So will he become that great player that people said he would be? I don't know. It remains to be seen. But those are the guys who went through spring ball who will be counted on early on in the fall. And then, as far as some of the other true freshmen coming in, MJ Webb was a mid-year enrollee, so he got some work this spring. You have Brad Johnson. You have Javon Kinlaw. You can expect them to get early looks as well up front. So those would be the main ones at this particular time on the defensive line that the Gamecocks will be counting on. Will they be good enough? I mean, time will tell. I think they'll be improved guys simply because it's the second year in the system. They'll feel more comfortable with what they're doing. It'll be more of a reaction situation rather than thinking about, okay, what are they teaching me? What's the terminology. Where should I put my hand here? Where's my elbow supposed to be? It should come natural to him now.
Well, the key point, as I said before, you're going to have to get the push up front to get the quarterback off his sweet spot. I think the other key is we know that Muschamp fed him pablum last year, and they're going to have some more wrinkles in that secondary. That's why he's looking for more talent, quicker talent, to make the quarterback have to hold the football and go through his progressions. Once you make a quarterback, a lot of times you saw South Carolina last year, the quarterback would go back to pass, and he'd read his first read, and he'd throw it. You get him to go through those progressions, that gives your line time to get to the quarterback, because a lot of times it was 1, 2, 3 came back, and that ball was out of there.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of it. Gotta let it go, as Steve Spurrier used to say.
They go. I know you guys were talking about Bentley earlier, and the comments that he made to an upstate television station that was doing a feature on the Bentleys. And, Jake had some interesting things to say about the Clemson game in particular. And, everybody's been reacting to that, making really much ado about nothing. It's just it's just a college quarterback defending his team more or less and being a leader. If you're South Carolina, I think if you're Muschamp, if you're Roper, if you're a Gamecock fan, you like that from your quarterback. A few years ago after South Carolina had beaten Clemson, Deshaun Watson made a pledge that he'd never lose to South Carolina, and he backed it up with his performance. I think South Carolina football players needing something to drive them in the offseason are using that Clemson game as motivation and part of their slogan, what is it, never again, that kind of stuff. Now, if you want to take him literally, well, obviously he's way off in comparing the two teams. That Clemson team against that South Carolina team would win 10 out of 10 times, maybe 100 out of 100 times. There's no comparison between those two teams, whether it was that night or the week before, 5 weeks before. Clemson was just that much better than South Carolina in 2016. It won't be the same in 2017. South Carolina's going to have much better talent on offense. And even though Clemson's going to be really good on defense, the South Carolina offense is going to have a chance against, I think, any defense they face. Question is, how good will they be on defense if they're going to take a major step forward? So I understand what he was saying, standing up for his team and trying to make a defensive point for his guys, saying, they beat us to death, but there really wasn't a great difference between the two of us. I just think that's some college naivete talking there, because we all could see the difference in talent between the two teams.
Well, not only the difference in talent, but the difference in experience as well. And so you put that combination together, that's lethal when you got the experience and the superior talent.
I mean, it's just I'm with Corn. To me, it's just sounded like a 19-year-old kid saying what they say and what a lot of athletes say.
But I love to hear
Clemson fans get upset when
Davos,
when he said Clemson's undefeated against everybody but Clemson. I mean, you're saying the same thing. That's just the mentality that these guys have beaten into their heads, that's entrenched into them. Like we beat ourselves out there, guys. No one can beat us. We got to work hard, and they outwork. It's not going to happen again. That's the whole mentality. And then when that stuff spills out, we all latch on to every word. And Jake Bentley's not used to talking to the media. He didn't talk to the media at all last year. Corn, this is the point I made. Now we know why Will Muschamp doesn't like his freshmen to talk. He's not a freshman anymore. I get it, but these are the kind of things that coaches want to avoid.
Yes, absolutely. But again, you gotta take it in the context of the timing, the purpose of the interview. I mean, it's the summertime, and it's off season, and he was being interviewed by a local television station doing a feature on him and his dad about how they work together and what they hope to build at South Carolina. And the question, I guess, was asked to him about what happened in the South Carolina game, and he was awful that game. The entire Gamecock team was awful that game, and I think he was just trying to come to everyone's defense. We'll be right back. right, we are back with you. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We'll be hearing from the Gamecocks here coming up in just a little bit. Updates, Arkansas and Auburn. It's still Arkansas 1-0 over Auburn as they play in the third inning of this elimination game. Guys, real quick, can you update some of the other baseball that we're keeping an eye on?
Yeah, we can update some other baseball quickly for you. I was just mentioning during the break, the College of Charleston beat Elon today 1-0, and the Cougars threw a no-hitter in that one. So I just looking, I can pull up the box real quick to see if it was I'm going to have to go back to that, Corn. It's not going to cooperate with me, but the Cougars did
tell me about that.
A no-hitter in that one. I can assure you. PC won in the Big South tournament. They're finally playing in Lexington. This is the first day they've been able to play any baseball in Lexington because of all this weather. So they move along. They're still playing, and Winthrop will play later tonight. And we have Wofford no longer playing in Greenville. They lost to VMI in 10 innings, 6-5, so 0-2 and barbecue for the Terriers. Furman will be playing later tonight there in the SoCon, Corn.
All right, very good. And, of course, Coastal Carolina off another day. They'll finally play tomorrow in the Sun Belt tournament, and Clemson plays tomorrow in the ACC. What about the ACC scores, K-Mac? You got those in front of you?
The ACC, I think it's raining again there now, by the way. They're finally going to play pro?
North Carolina, I think, helped out the ACC by having a 10-0 lead, so they used the mercy rule
7 innings.
In their game, 7 innings.
They beat Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Ha!
So I have no idea how that pool's going to play out now.
Well, the Duke's 2-0.
Duke is 2-0.
They're in.
They're
into the semifinals.
So the Duke's in the semis. Virginia's eliminated.
Yes. That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
That is stinking.
So Virginia's playing a meaningless game tomorrow too.
Correct. Unless, they're thinking about national seed and all that kind of stuff.
I think Mike Morgan came up with that format. That sounds like a Mike Morgan format the ACC is using.
Yeah, let's welcome in Morgan. By the way, somebody just hit a home run for Arkansas, and they don't put the runs up on the board until everybody comes home, so I didn't notice how many people were on base, so hang on a second. It was a man, they're slow. I still only have one run up on the board, but I saw a bunch of people cross the board.
I think it was a 2-run homer.
It's like a pinball machine. Okay, 2-run homer makes it 3-0. As I hear Mike,
a lot of information here
in the
background
background
our show today.
We welcome Mike Morgan. Morgan on the move with us here on Sports Talk, and Mike is brought to you by Play It Again Sports in Columbia, where you can buy, sell, and trade what you want, located at Bauer Parkway in Harbison, and by Founders Federal Credit Union. Check out foundersfcu.com and learn how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. All right, I'm here in Hoover. And you came here a lot of years with some great USC baseball teams and saw them lose a lot. Now, this team has become the first Gamecock team in 10 years to win 2 games here. Explain that.
Before we get started, can you go ahead and describe the Arkansas home run, tell us who hit it, and give an update of the slugging percentage? I think this is very pivotal information for your audience.
Well, I should at least be able to give them the score after a home run is hit.
That's what the internet is for, Phil. That is the internet will save those problems for your large Arkansas audience.
Mike, there is somebody in Newberry right now driving around that the only reason why they're listening to this show is to find out what the score in the Arkansas-Auburn game is and who hit that daggum home run.
Absolutely.
I think I
Bill
think that's a good point.
Needs to know the updated total of the Arkansas first baseman who hit the home run.
Okay. Are we going to get to my answer or not?
No, that was fun. Yeah, I had a chance to go down there, as you mentioned, with the team for, I guess it was 9-10 years. Now, I never saw an 0-2. The 0-2 didn't start until about, I guess, 2010. But you're right. They never played that well there, although in 2002, that team made it to the championship game, ran out of pitching, started Chris Hernandez, if I'm not mistaken, in the title game against Alabama. And then in 2004, that team won it all. And the great thing about that was you won the first 2 days. As you remember that old format, you won the first 2 days, and then you had Friday off You just go and have fun at the Galleria Mall and do whatever there is to do in Hoover, Alabama. And then you play Saturday and Sunday, and that team won the whole thing in '04, which I maintain is still probably the most talented team program. That's another debate for another time. It's a weird thing. Why they've struggled there so much before this year, I don't know. I don't know if you can even put your finger on it. I've always thought some of the Western Division teams have a little bit of an edge. Their crowds are generally better. I think if you gauge the attendance, typically teams from the East do not attend that event very well for a number of different reasons. It was a ballpark that was cavernous, which did not play into Carolina's hands. They moved the fences in, thank goodness, and now guys are hitting home runs, as you're seeing there for Carolina, of course, by one player in particular. So, I mean, why this year? Look, give Chad Holbrook some credit. They have their backs against the wall. It's no secret they have to win some games there if they have any chance of making the NCAA tournament. And they've rang the bell 2 out of 3, and we'll see what they can do tomorrow.
Yeah, and, of course, if they can win tomorrow, that's 3 wins here. And you'll hear Holbrook talking about this when we get to it here shortly. But, you know, what do you think that does for them NCAA-wise? Because they'll get a chance to play again on Saturday, and who knows what happens. But if they can win tomorrow, that means they'll go no worse than 3-2 here. What does that say to the committee? Is this team worthy of an at-large? Depending on, I guess a lot depends on the automatic bids and what upsets occur in these tournaments.
Well, it does, and of course, it even depends on what some of those bubble teams are doing in other leagues, a la what we look for in college basketball this time of year. Look, I think first. Well, you have to make it Saturday. I don't even think there's a debate if this team loses tomorrow. And obviously they'll be an underdog against either Kentucky or LSU, 2 of the hottest teams going, 2 of the best teams all year long. But if you win that tomorrow and you make it to Saturday, now it's a whole other ball game, because I think that RPI could creep back into the top 30. That the overall conference record, which was 4 games under 500 going into the tournament, would look a lot better. It would be a team you could say at least has shown some fight in the conference tournament. And heck, if we're going to make these conference tournaments relevant, you have to reward the teams that do well in it, right? So I think the committee would like that side of it as well. I think it would make for a very compelling debate if you got to Saturday. I think they're in if you make it to Sunday, win or lose. Yeah. I think Saturday they're in the discussion. I think Friday, if you lose, you're on the outside looking in.
Let's talk about Clemson. They lost to Duke. You heard us talking about Duke winning in the format. Clemson plays Virginia tomorrow. For the longest time, they've been penciled in for a while as a national top 8. They've lost that. They've been penciled in as a regional host for the longest time. If they lose tomorrow to Virginia, tomorrow morning, the way they have slid here in the last half of the season, do you think they hang on to that host regional spot?
I think that's when committees start resorting to numbers like the RPI. I don't think the RPI is as important as everybody thinks it is. I think it's trumped by conference record and overall record and things of that nature, strength of schedule. But if it's a close call, then I think the committee starts putting them under a magnifying glass, and RPI all of a sudden becomes a pretty big factor. I don't have RPI in front of me. I would have to imagine it's still pretty good. It's still top 20.
They're 11. Dropped 2 spots this week. And speaking of, with their win today, USC's RPI improves to 31. So they've moved up 6 spots this week.
Yeah. Now, of course, top 30 is not a lock, as North Carolina learned last year, and I think Oregon State learned a year or two as well. Just because you're top 30 RPI doesn't mean you're automatic. I still think if you're something like 4 games under 500 in conference play, that's going to trump a good RPI. But again, they wouldn't be 4 games under 500 if they keep winning. And to answer the Clemson question, if they stay in that top 15 RPI, even though they're kind of limping the finish line, I think they'd still be in good shape to at least host.
All right, hold that thought. We'll come right back to you. Carlos Cortez, first USC player with 2 homers in a game of the SEC tournament since Phil Disher against Vanderbilt in 2008. A couple more quick moments with Mike Morgan. Morgan on the move. What'd you think about what went down at Alabama yesterday with their baseball coach?
I like the shout out to the Aiken bomber, Phil Disher. I was there for that one. The situation with Coach Goff is a strange one. It reminds me 2 years ago of what we were hearing about Sonny Galloway at Auburn, and there are some parallels there. It's just 2 guys who made a lot of friction with players, with alums, with administrators. It was a marriage made in you-know-what, and there was a lot of talk that Sonny Galloway was going to be fired after 1 year. He lasted 2. I was down there not long ago for a game, and I did not get a good vibe from anybody. So while it is somewhat shocking to see a coach fired after 1 year, I can't say that I'm that shocked by it. And then you start reading the reports of running a bunch of kids off and the legality or the illegality of that based on NCAA rules. It just sounds like it turned into a mess in a hurry. The morale there was pretty low from every indication I got. And, those are 2 proud programs with great fan bases, and high school baseball in the state of Alabama is terrific. They deserve better, quite frankly. I think Butch Thompson's got Auburn going in the right direction. Whoever does get that Alabama job, and I think Mark Calvey should be and will be a candidate with the job he's done at South Alabama. Whoever does get that job, I think will get that program back on track with a new stadium, new facilities, and they just need some fresh blood in there to go in a different direction.
Okay, Mike, we thank you, man, as always. Enjoy the weekend. When's your next baseball work?
I will be in Clearwater this weekend for the American Conference Championship. In fact, one of those hot coaching candidates is the coach at USF, South Florida. They, along with Houston and UCF, all teams that have the potential in the championship game. So looking forward to that. And then it's on to regionals and supers.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the quarterback from USF, isn't he also a baseball player? Am I right on that?
Wow, you're going next level. You're going next level. I couldn't tell you right now. I've got a lot of work to do between now and then.
Probably
if they make it to
isn't,
the championship
Morgan.
Game, I'll have all the info.
He probably isn't. So don't put that nugget in your game notes.
Did he just make that up?
I'm sure.
He's still thinking about that Arkansas.
He doesn't know
home
who
run.
hit the home run in the game that he's watching. Okay.
I think Quentin Flowers is his name. I think he's also a baseball player. Don't hold me to that. You just enjoy yourself in beautiful Clearwater. Tell the folks there who I met when I was there for the football championship game. Tell the folks there I said hello.
I will. I'll have a daiquiri in your honor.
Please do, or 2. And I'll have the folks over at Sammy's. They say hey to you from here in Ham.
Oh, that's fantastic. love the folks at Sammy's. I'm sure they're good. It's a sandwich shop, isn't it?
It is in some cases. Yes, you can eat there. Yes.
Okay, good enough.
All right, take care. Have a good night. Mike Morgan with us here on Sports Talk. Let's go to Chad Holbrook. This is not from the main presser. This is the little gaggle he did with the friendly local media. It's funny how coaches love to do these things after a win. Here he is talking about the sudden surge of power in the Gamecock bats here in Hoover.
I think we broke the record for our team at South Carolina as home runs in a season in BB Core era. So, there's some pretty good teams that played in the BB Core era. So we've put up some decent power numbers, and it's kind of refreshing. When you get to the tournament and you wait around and you keep playing until you get to the weekend, anything can happen. And it looks like we're going to be here on the weekend, and hopefully we'll play great tomorrow.
What's the status of Jacob Olsen?
Jacob is battling strep throat, we think, and he's just not feeling well. And, he just doesn't have any energy, and his throat hurts. And, if he doesn't get better tomorrow, I'll probably run some more tests to, rule out mono and that kind of thing. So he just wasn't able to go today.
You said before the tournament earlier this week that you didn't think you'd done enough to get to the NCAA. Now you've won a couple of games here. Tomorrow, if you get a third win, you think?
You never know. At least we're in the conversation probably, and maybe across the nation, all the favorites will win the conference tournament, and there'll be no surprises, and we can slide in there. Who knows?
I know this, that no matter what happens, I don't think anybody would want us in their regional the way that we're playing right now and the way that we're swinging the bat and that kind of thing. And, with what's happened to our team, I don't need to get on the soapbox and, make excuses. We've had a lot thrown at us, and it's satisfying to see us play the way we're playing right now. It might be too little, too late. It might not be. But that being said, if we are lucky enough to get in the NCAA tournament, we'll be a tough out just the way that we're playing now. And I think the toughness that we've showed with the adversity we faced, I think we've it's a little bit tougher group than we were probably at the midpoint of the season.
In addition to Justin Rowe in addition to the homers, do you feel like Justin Rowe and he kind of gave you guys a spark today?
He did, and Justin's given us a spark ever since he's been in there with his own base all the time. He's a baseball rat. He loves to hustle and back up plays and runs hard, plays hard. That's kind of that's infectious, and that carries on in the dugout. That carries through the dugout. So it's good to see him. And Danny with 3 hits today, and it was his. It was neat to see him play well. And Danny's a tough little nut. I wish he would bunt better, but bless his heart. I tell him all the time. A fast guy that can't bunt, it's like a point guard that can't shoot free throws. It's not good. But he tries awfully hard, and he sparked us today. And he's such a great kid, and he works extremely hard. He wants to be good. It's good to see some of his hard work pay off.
How close do you follow those other conference tournaments and the bubble and that kind of thing?
Not really, because they'll drive you crazy. You can't worry about things that you can't control. We're just going to, worry about my team and try to play as good as we can play and see what happens. If anybody deserves a little good in regard to what happens across the country, it would be us with all that we face. But who knows? We'll worry about ourselves, and we'll worry about our game tomorrow and try to play some really good ball.
How does it feel to be the first Gamecock team to win 2 games here in 10 years?
Well, it's we certainly needed it, and it's good to not be going home for a couple of days and having a chance to play on the weekend where, if you can win tomorrow, anything can happen. And that's the way we got to treat it. This park sometimes equalizes, can equalize things because, it's a neutral site. You got to kill balls to hit them out, even though we're hitting them out right now, which is a little bit beyond me. But generally speaking, the games are tight. And if you can make a play here or there, come up with a big hit, you can find a way to win. And it's kind of like playing in Omaha, at the big park. And who knows? We're still fighting. We're still breathing. And hopefully we'll play another great game tomorrow.
Pitcher for Alex, he was a triple shy of the cycle. Do you think about letting him hit there and see if he finds a gapper like that?
Ross has worked very hard. He deserved it at bat. And I didn't even think about that, but I can tell you one thing: Alex Destino getting a triple. Come on.
Little chuckle there at the very end on the thought of Alex Destino legging out a triple. But in this ballpark, I think even the professor could let a triple, hit it in the right place, hit it in the gap. Ball bounces around a little bit, turn on the speed and get to the third base bag and complete that cycle. But Destino seems to be locked in right now. Certainly Cortez seems to be locked in. And Gamecocks are having a lot of fun, at least a couple of times out there. Kentucky, they knew that they were facing a superior offensive team that particular day without their best arms going. And I think mentally, even though they got off to the early lead, I think they knew that if they didn't have a big lead, it'd be tough to hang on to it. And that turned out to be the case. Here today, similarly, got off to the early lead and never let Missouri into it. There was a moment there. Missouri caught a piece of bad luck. Guy hit a ball off the top of the wall, very close, 6 inches or so from being a home run that would have cut into the lead a little bit. But instead, I think it just scored 1 run off of it, and then Crow got out of further damage there. So the bounces are going South Carolina's way here for a little bit. They caught a little bit of a break there. Some guys are stepping up, and look, they had Crow set up for today and Hill set up for tomorrow with a pretty rested bullpen. So considering the circumstances, they couldn't really ask for much more at this point. Just a chance, and that's all they're asking for. We'll be back and give you the recruiting report, plus we'll hear from some of those Gamecocks about their win today. It's still Arkansas. Somebody hit a 2-run homer. It's still Arkansas over Auburn, 3-0. We'll be right back.
Will, how'd you kind of feel about yourself today? Will, how'd you kind of feel about yourself today?
Just in the pen.
Will, how'd you kind of feel about yourself today? It seemed like you had a lot of confidence in that slider, especially today.
Just in the pen, I knew that I was going to be able to throw my fastball both sides of the plate.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network recruiting coming up. Squeeze that in here at the very end. Let's give you some final words from the Gamecocks. Coming off their win today over Missouri, stay alive here at the SEC tournament. Heard from Chad Holbrook. Now the players, Will Crow, Alex Destino, Carlos Cortez on hand to take questions from the media a little while ago.
Will, how'd you kind of feel about yourself today? It seemed like you had a lot of confidence in that slider, especially today.
Just in the pen, I knew that I was going to be able to throw my fastball both sides of the plate, and then the slider as well was pretty pretty tight in the bullpen. So I knew I was going to be able to command the zone and really go after people today with those 2 pitches, and felt like I was pretty comfortable with it.
Jeff Owens, Spurs and Feathers. Carlos, what was going through your mind in those 2 at-bats when you hit the home runs, especially after you had been walked so much? What was going through your mind when you stepped up there, and what were you looking for?
I was just looking for a pitch to drive, and I got it, and not looking to really hit a home run, just trying to drive something in the gap to keep the bats moving and putting more runs on the board, because the more runs we put up, the easier it makes the pitcher's jobs.
Carlos, personally, where's your confidence right now? How are you feeling at the plate?
I feel good. Seeing the ball pretty well, but we don't. It's more for my team. We don't want to lose, and we don't want this to end. So I just kind of want to stay behind them and just feed energy to them.
Alex, what do you attribute the power surge in this team? I mean, you've hit, 7 home runs into 3 games now, and where do you think that's coming from this team?
Just confidence. I mean, I like Coach said, I think we've been swinging the bat pretty well this whole tournament, and wind's blowing good in Hoover. We heard all coming in, it's a graveyard, and having that good first game with some guys seeing the ball leave the park, and confidence in them. And for the rest of the hitters, seeing that, I mean, if you hit a ball hard in the air, it can reward you here. So just guys being confident going up there, trying to find pitches that they can drive, like Carlos said, and just kind of not wanting to lose and doing everything they can to put runs on the board. So I attribute most of the confidence. Just swinging good bats right now.
Will, how big were those 3rd and 4th innings for you? They just missed the home run and then loaded the bases the next inning. How big was it to get out of those, just giving up 1?
I mean, it's huge. Anytime that you can get out of an inning where guys are seeing, like the guy that almost hit the home run, he saw that pitch good. And then when I got the bases loaded, anytime you can get out of the inning without more than 1 run or 0 runs, it's huge for your team, especially it puts confidence in them and our hitter and gives them another opportunity to go up there, and we're still ahead and we still have the lead. So it was huge.
Kind of like Spurs and Feathers. Will, kind of going off of that, you were at that 91 pitch and you were able to get 2 more innings. Did you change your mindset there, and how important was it for you to give your team 2 more innings?
Well, I just knew that we had a few guys that threw some pitches earlier in the week, and I needed to go out and give 6, 7 innings if I could. And I just wanted to pitch to contact and let my defense work. We got a great defense. It's just gloves and things, and just to give myself more of a chance to go deeper in the game.
Alex, you've hit a lot of home runs. I'm wondering what your impression of Carlos and what he did today is, and who had the longest home run.
He definitely beat me today, that's for sure. But no, Carlos, like Coach said, everybody's seeing he's not becoming. I think he is one of the better hitters in the country, and for pitchers next year, I mean, for the rest of this tournament going into next year, very confident hitter, very good hitter, a very sound hitter for a freshman. So it's been very exciting to watch, given a lot of energy and excitement to our team throughout the year. And especially with this recent surge he's going on, it's chose a great time to do it. We were laughing about that coming in here. I mean, it chose a great time to start doing this. So, I mean, just gives us something to feed off of, and just very exciting to watch.
Matt Connolly with the state. Carlos, has it been hard to be so patient when you've been walked so many times as well? And what's kind of your mindset as far as with them trying to pitch around you as well?
Honestly, most of the pitches haven't been really close to the zone, so it wasn't like hard to be patient. But it's good just giving guys opportunity to drive and run. So that makes it easier as well.
Alex, you mentioned confidence. Just where's the team's confidence right now? Do you guys feel like you're finally getting offensively to the point where you thought you could be at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously feel good. We know whoever we're going to play tomorrow is going to have a good arm at us. So just kind of knowing that and embracing that and being ready to accept the fact that somebody's going to be very good on the mound plays a huge role into it. And I think knowing that and being able to adjust and set an approach before the game plays a huge role for the hitters. So just kind of going off of that the rest of the tournament. And I mean, if we're lucky enough to play into the postseason, then we'll carry that same mindset to them.
There you go. Some of the Gamecocks talking after the win, and we'll see if they can keep it going tomorrow. Let's give you recruiting now. Unprecedented coming so late in the program. The crown jewel of sports talk. We seldom save it to the very end, but we had to today. Defensive end Taylor Upshaw, Bradenton, Florida, released his top 10 the other day of Clemson, Pitt, Ole Miss, Oregon, NC State, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Louisville, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee. He already has a strong tie to Clemson through his brother, who's a walk-on with the Tigers. And, of course, he's very interested in Clemson, been there several times, but not willing to say the Tigers are a lock for him. He wants to continue to check out his offers and check out his opportunities, though, of course, he's impressed with Clemson, their defense, the national championship, producing NFL players. They have a construction management program that he's interested in. So that is what attracts him. He's been talking to Todd Bates and Brent Venables good bits. He is a versatile guy, plays in a 3-4 or a 4-3, and he plans to visit the schools in his top 10. He has not visited Ole Miss, Vandy, Louisville, Kentucky, Pitt, Oregon, Tennessee, NC State. He is a teammate, by the way, of USC running back commitment Deshaun Fenwick. Running back Lynn J. Dixon of Butler, Georgia, cut his list down to a top 12. Clemson, which has not offered, is on the list. US has offered, is not. The others on the list are Tennessee, Alabama, Virginia Tech, Ole Miss, Florida, Oklahoma State, Michigan State, Louisville, Texas, Notre Dame, and Auburn. Clemson made the top 10 with tight end Mustafa Muhammad of Missouri City, Texas, with Georgia, LSU, Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas, Texas A&M, UCLA, and Southern Cal. Virginia Tech, the latest to offer, Greenwood receiver Sam Pinckney. He also has USC, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Appalachian State, and Georgia State offers. Florida State, Virginia Tech, Georgia, and Clemson have been by the school. LSU was due in today. Michigan State's also expected in. Pinckney, who had USC as one of his favorites, said the Gamecocks no longer are recruiting him. He said Florida State, LSU, and Virginia Tech, 3, recruiting him the hardest. He really likes Florida State and LSU. Clemson offered 2019 defensive end Braylon of Fort Lauderdale. USC offered 2019 defensive end Byron Young of Laurel, Mississippi, and defensive back Jamari Brown of Pompano Beach, Florida. Ben Lippen quarterback Trad Beatty picked up offers from James Madison and Georgia State. Linebacker Channing Tyndall of Spring Valley was offered by Texas A&M. Defensive back Chris Pam of Blythewood and Georgia Military is hearing a lot from Colorado and is hopeful for an offer. Also hearing from Northern Illinois, South Florida, East Carolina, FAU, FIU, UNLV, Florida, and Georgia. And that is it. That is it for recruiting. That is it for the show. Arkansas, with the power of a 2-run homer in the third by somebody, leads Auburn 3-0 here. Any final quick thoughts from you guys?
I think
Go
it was a Razorback.
Cavs. Close it out, Cavs.
Oh, come on, K-Mac.
Take care of
My
business.
Goodness.
Take care
You know,
of
you're so
business.
jealous. I can just tell you're eating up with jealousy.
King James. Here
We
comes
shall
the king.
see you tomorrow night. The Gamecocks will be in action. We'll be here watching. We'll see you then. Announced their response to the latest NCAA stuff. They also announced Fedora's contract extension.